Good evening. Major tourism operators in Queenstown are determined to jump on the bungee bandwagon. The operation on the Kawarau Bridge has won 3 tourism awards, and even in winter it's running daily. So its rivals, who've been denied use of the Kawarau Bridge, have been scouting for new locations. Michael Lynch reports.
It's not stretching a point to say the Kawarau Bridge bungee jump is the hottest act in town. It's made inroads into other adventure sports, and after rivals were prohibited from using this bridge, no one's surprised they've hunted out another location. And it's nothing if not spectacular. The plan is to have a 15-metre platform cantilevered out from a bluff just below the skyline gondola. The jump will be about 40 metres, similar to the Kawarau Bridge, but because of the height above Queenstown, it could look a lot more frightening. The promoters are no fly-by-nighters. Grant Hensman is the son of Hilton Hensman, pioneer Queenstown developer responsible for setting up the gondola. They'll be joined by the town's biggest raft and parapont operator.
We'd like to think we could get going for Christmas, but I have a feeling the delays will be longer than that.
But it doesn't seem to be interfering too much with anybody. Have there been any objections that have sort of come to your notice so far?
No objections yet, but it's yet to be advertised for objections, and the public will have to say then.
OK, the other thing that people are always talking about, bungee jumps. Are they safe? Is this one going to be safe? You know, do you have expertise in running this sort of thing?
We're having talks with several parties that do have this sort of expertise, and we won't be doing it unless we think it's safe.
Tourists' idea of what's safe is rather extended over recent years. Bungieing's had a good record so far, but from near the top of the Skyline Hill, it will look a long way down.
A success story with far-reaching effects on Dunedin's tourism future is how the release of salmon smolt into Otago Harbour is being described. The Salmon Anglers Association started the experiment 3 years ago, and the results have been spectacular. This winter's release is starting about now, with 15,000 fish going into the Leith. Carolyn Harper reports.
Otago Harbour was the only place in New Zealand where people were fishing for salmon today. And it's thanks to the Otago Salmon Anglers Association, which is concluding a 3-year experiment to prove Otago Harbour can support a salmon fishery. Some of these fish will be back next year and the year after, providing a fishing paradise on the city's doorstep.
They can walk to the wharf and catch large fish and take them home in really good condition.
This fishing experience is unique to Dunedin. It's the only harbour in New Zealand with a salmon release program. And already it's attracting anglers from all over the world.
We have seen people from overseas coming and fishing here. In fact, we organised a competition earlier this year, and the second prize getter was a Londoner.
Although the experiment's at an end, the Anglers Association is keen to keep releasing salmon. Provided there's continued support from the public and money from local businesses, people will be catching salmon here for many years to come.
Otago made a double killing at Surrey Park Basketball Stadium when it bowled over the Southland men's and women's teams in a high-powered basketball clash at the weekend. The men's game was particularly important for both provinces, but Ken Nicholson reports it was the Otago women who set the pattern for the night.
Both teams were slow to start, but once the ball began finding the basket, Otago leapt out to a handy 8-point lead. However, the Southland front runners dragged their side back to a 2-point deficit at the half. And fortunes changed completely as Southland opened up a 7-point lead at 44-37. With American Ernesta Grace hindered by a reoccurring ankle injury, Otago quickened its pace to clinch the 56-50 win. With a place in the First Division next year as a carrot dangled before both teams, the men's clash was ultra-important, and the result rested, inevitably, with the performance of the American pros, Otago's Jerome Fitchett, and the home team's Reggie Wallace. But Otago's homegrown talent, with Chris Pollard strong under both baskets, made the difference. Then it was Wallace and Fitchett battling it out point for point. And even with Wallace banging in 22 points, Fitchett had the final say, and Otago wound up clear winners by 85 points to 66. And First Division is one step nearer.
A soft, stringy substance with an image problem. That's New Zealand's #1 tree, Pinus Radiata. It has its place, some would say, in the log burner, but one brave Otago man suggests it should be taken more seriously in the furniture trade. Mark Price has been looking into it.
In the world of quality furniture, Pinus Radiata is something that bad dreams are made of. New Zealand may be awash with the stuff, but those in the business of making or supplying the timber for fine furniture scorn Radiata.
So it is not suitable, in my view, for reasons of practicality and as well as aesthetics for scene furniture.
You can explain a little bit more about what you mean by aesthetics in a sense.
Well, I don't like the look of it.
But as pressure grows to save what's left of native hardwood forests here and overseas, will we have a choice?
New Zealand native timbers are disappearing off the market rapidly and will become much more expensive in the next few years, quite soon. And tropical hardwoods, tropical species are disappearing for the same reason, that exporters are much keener on added product nearer home, and it won't be possible to buy other species. So New Zealand woodworkers are going to have to confront doing worthwhile work in pine, because that's going to be their major source of raw material.
Dunedin was once the centre of the New Zealand furniture industry. Craftsmen from the old country applied their traditional designs to new local materials, kauri, beech and rimu, as well as to the old favourites like mahogany.
People like timber. They like to work with it. They like to feel it. They like to live with it.
But not pine.
You're putting words in my mouth.
Stuart Scott says pine has its place, but not in fine furniture. That's an attitude that's under attack from the editor of the New Zealand Woodworker, Alexandra-based Malcolm McPherson.
Radiata is at least as good as a lot of imported hardwoods, and it's at least as good as a lot of commercially used timber elsewhere in the world.
There are a lot of people out there in the timber industry, the furniture industry, who would disagree with you.
I think that's because they're being driven by their buyers. They know that it's hard to sell furniture made in Radiata because of its bad name, because it's always been associated with lower class products.
But there's something about pine that just doesn't attract certain people. This French polishing business in Dunedin has Brierley executives popping in every now and again, but they're after imported hardwood furniture, or perhaps something New Zealand made, but it must be kauri or at the very least rimu.
People know that in the past kauri furniture has been popular, and kauri furniture has always been easy to sell and has always attracted a premium, and that's because of some sort of mysterious snob value that's built up around kauri. Kauri is probably no better to work with than Radiata, and its technical properties aren't greatly superior to those of Radiata.
At his suggestion, the government's put up $5,000 for a national pine furniture competition. He hopes that will bring out some top-notch work. But in trying to find examples down this end of the country, we drew a blank. Atlas Furniture's doing very nicely out of pine for the common or garden suburban home, but this is not the furniture that's going to appeal to those with a highly developed sense of aesthetics. Journalists, we're told, might buy it, but not too many doctors and lawyers. Mr. McPherson says Radiata may never quite make it in the antique furniture game, but it's time someone began to explore that possibility.
And that's the South tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Good night.